All right. So today I'm being joined by Mr. Chad Dietz from Forward Golf. How are you, Chad?
I'm doing well. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. I mean, it's morning for you. I always have to keep that time difference in so I say good morning to you, a guy in the UK or in Australia. It
Oh
might be,
yeah,
it might be the next day. But yeah, everything's good. Thank you.
good, good.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Love to be here and explain what it is we're doing. I know it's a little different than the way most other organizations are doing it, but I definitely love to hop on and explain what it is and how I think it could help people play this game a little bit better. I think that's what we're all after.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, it is something different, but um, historically, this blog, or it started out as a written blog.
Mm,
Um, we haven't been cookie cutter about anything.
I
So
love that.
most people come out with concepts and ideas, and a lot of it sticks. For example, Kelvin Miyahara.
Oh
Uh,
gosh.
Kelvin Miyahara was introduced to me via a follower. So you should check this guy out in Hawaii named Kelvin.
Oh yeah.
Man, thought nothing of it. I wrote Kelvin, and we became friends, and he started collaborating early on. And he didn't even have a website or anything like that. He just
Mm,
had a lot of ideas of how
sure.
things should be done.
Sure.
And lo and behold, one thing led to another, and tour players and everybody is adopting the his his concepts.
100%.
And
I'm one of them. I remember the first time I came across Kelvin's articles and really started to dive deep into them. There was a lot of compelling arguments that he was posing that I thought really resonated with kind of where my mind was going in the golf swing. And the thing that I admired the most is his goal was to just create a vocabulary to which all instructors could talk about the same thing and understand what each thing meant. And that's the anatomical movements of the body. Instead of using words like casting and over the top, actually identifying, well, what is that causes that, so that the verbiage could be the same amongst the best instructors in the world. And just that goal alone is a very special one. And I feel like we're trying to do something similar in the fitting space. How do we create some sort of baseline or a standardization to where we all can start to let our ideas kind of work together and have a baseline?
okay, so let's start by you giving me a little bit of your background and your trajectory, your golf history, and how you got to where you are now.
Sure, sure. Well, if I took us back to the very beginning, I'm not sure how long this podcast wants to go, but
Yeah, we'll go as
we
long
could
as you
we could
want.
go a long time if you want.
We'll make
But
it three or four parts. It doesn't
one of the
matter.
coolest stories in my career is how I got started with golf. I had a best friend growing up. His dad was my little league baseball coach. In the off season, his kids were going to go play the little Muni 9-hole course just down the street, where Brett actually cut his teeth as well. That's where we all grew up playing Sataquoi Regional. And I got invited to go, and I asked my dad if I could go. He was like, "Well, you've never even been on a golf course before. I don't know if you should go, but I guess if you're being chaperoned, what the hell, I'll let you go." So I got to go play golf with my two best friends. Before the round of golf, his dad took both of his sons into the pro shop and basically bought them both a pair of golf shoes. So both of them got golf shoes, and we went out, played 18 holes, so the 9 holes twice. And when we were done, my or my baseball coach basically asked me, how did you enjoy it? Did you have fun? Do you like golf? Like, what is your take on this sport, Chad? And I was like, this is really fun. Like, I would love to come back and play tomorrow. I was kind of like into it. So he took me into the pro shop and took me to the shoe rack and asked me what size shoe I wore. And lo and behold, he bought me a pair of golf shoes. And to this day, I can get choked up just talking about it, because that day changed my life forever. I've never had a stranger buy me something of that level, just as a nice gesture. But what it made me do is when he bought me those shoes, it made me realize I'm gonna be a golfer. because how could I not? It's almost like the mafia giving you the watch, you know, and you owe them a favor labor type of thing.
They're pricking your
And that's
finger.
kinda how I felt. It's one of the most inspirational things that's happened to me, his name's
Uh,
Rob Briner, was my coach, and that was how I got into golf. It was like, "Okay, a stranger bought me golf shoes, I'm gonna start using them because if I don't, it's kinda disrespectful." That's just the way that I was brought up. So,
yeah,
that was, like, in 8th grade, so then the next goal was to get on the high school team, played on the high school team, after high school, went and played a year in the community college, got distracted with other things and kind of hung up the golf clubs for a while. Started getting into kind of surfing. I started shaping surfboards and anything I get into, I kind of dive deep into. And then one day, my now business partner, Dan, and his cousin were going to go play Rustic Canyons, invited me to go play. I didn't even know like where my golf clubs were. They were somewhere in the basement somewhere. And I went and found them and went out and played with them and realized that golf was not like riding a bike. I expected to play a hell of a lot better than I did after a 6 year absence, which I don't know what I was thinking, but I thought that. And it really made me wonder, like, the game seems so much harder. I didn't know how did I shoot even par as a senior in high school, and right now I'm making bogeys and double bogeys on every hole. So it really just inspired me to try to get back to where I was. Like, it doesn't make sense that I couldn't be what I used to be. And the addiction for the game came back to me, and then the rest is kind of history. I took over a repair shop for the guy who used to build our clubs in high school. He moved to Hawaii, sold me all his stuff for $1,000, and started to build a little repair station from there. And obviously, in Southern California, the struggle for a small business to stay in business and better yet thrive is not easy, and it took many years to figure out how to not only make money to stay in business, but how do I also make people better along the way? Because if I can make people better, I could probably stay in business. And all of these roads, every hardship, every positive thing, everything I've experienced up until this point has led me to this process that I've created, which is lean, it's mean, and it gets results. So it allows guys who are trying to start a studio or be an elite coach a very usable tool for very decent price that will last its time forever. You know, high bounce clubs are going to be high bounce clubs and low bounce clubs will always be low bounce clubs. It doesn't matter if it's the year 2000, 2030, or 1990. The specs still apply to what you will benefit from the most. So this universal fitting process is my answer to having a tool that makes me feel comfortable if Tiger Woods was to stand up on my lesson mat, to organize my thoughts and ideas of why I think something's better than another. Uh, there's just so many it's like it's this thing's kind of a Swiss Army knife. Instructors use it, club repair guys use it, fitters use it, but it's an answer to all of my problems over the last 15 years. Is pretty much what it is.
that's great, and, I think that, trying to run a small business and battling with that dichotomy of quality and
Mm,
profit and trying to keep the door open and, I know some very, very, very smart people that are very good at their craft, but don't understand business,
sure.
and
Yeah.
it's a recipe for failure. Myself, I was fortunate that I started my business later on in life, and
Sure.
I had a better, I learned from others. I just learned by watching other people, and that's tough. I've had some of the, what we call luminaries, club designers, club builders, guys from the old school, Clay Long, Sheets, Jeff
Sure.
Sheets,
Jeff. Yeah.
probably gonna have Larry Bobka on soon.
Yeah. Yep.
And some of those guys, and I keep talking about the fitting experience per se, where I recently went. I don't normally do this. Okay, yeah. For me, my fitter is like my barber, is like my tailor, is a very personal relationship.
Sure.
He understands my hair. He understands, fact that I got a knot over here and it's still healing, so he doesn't
Sure.
go anywhere near there. You understand what I'm saying? So you know, my tailor knows what I want and when I gain weight and when I'm losing weight and
Sure.
how to
Sure.
make it work. So go to these commercial big box operations and it's not the same.
Absolutely. It's not the same.
You know,
They
I
don't have that
remember.
rapport.
No, I remember when I was in the golf business myself. Henry Griffith used to do this,
Sure.
and they would take and make your clubs. And the guy shows me, look, check this out. He shows me Ty Cobb's specs.
Mm,
Okay,
right.
club for higher shaft, bounce, the whole nine
That's so
yards.
cool.
I said, see, that's I don't know, it's more personal, I think. But
Sure.
anyway, let's get into the evolution of your model of
Sure.
your.
Yeah, I'd love to tell that story. So, in this venture, we started off as a practice membership business. So my goal was not being a club fitter. My goal was not to be a coach. I was just an obsessed golfer thinking that if I started this business with my business partner, it would be my stepping stone to be a pro golfer. What I didn't realize is when you get into business, you're actually going to play a lot less golf than you ever imagined. And it kind of went in a different direction.
Yeah,
Now, when the goal is just try to prove everybody that you won't go out of business, you're willing to basically do anything. So, me and my business partner worked trying to make this business go for 6 years and no one ever received a paycheck. We were breaking even at best and we were not getting paid any money. I was shaping surfboards early in the mornings and working all day at this facility we created. And he was working the mornings and selling gym memberships at night. So we were burning the candle at both ends, if you will, and anytime we needed extra money, we paid for it out of our paycheck from our other job just to keep the doors open. And obviously, you're trying to throw stuff on the wall to see what sticks in the meantime. And we would come up with all kinds of ideas, and some of them worked, and some of them didn't work. And we were just trying to figure it out. We were committed to being in business. Now we had to figure out how to stay in business, and that's my recommendation to anybody: is the business plan never goes to plan. You could still write it out, but don't think for a second that you're going to connect all those dots. You're gonna have to reroute many, many times. The key is to jump in.
let me interrupt you there.
Sure.
I just said I'm sorry. I was just on LinkedIn and we were talking. The guy goes, "Yeah, you got a model." I said, "Listen, entrepreneurship has nothing to do with modeling. Every day is different. You wake up in the morning and there's a guy knocking on your door, and you got to figure it out."
Sure. Sure.
I mean, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, eventually what happened, the story goes like this. So in high school, I played a set of clubs called KZGs, and they were kind of an under the radar type of brand, nice forgings, but what they had is they were, notorious for only custom building products specifically for the individual. So at some point in this business of not making any money, and just trying to hold on, I thought, maybe, getting deep into the fitting space could be something to investigate more. At first, I tried to reach out to big companies like Mizuno, Titleist, and TaylorMade, but because I was such a small operation and really didn't have a portfolio of like business that I've conducted selling clubs before, no one would open an account with me. I couldn't get an account open with club companies that were recognizable. So I reached out to KZG and went down there and spent 3 days with their head fitter named Brad Whalen, one of the best fitters to this day that I know. And some of the stuff that he was able to show me, working in real time with clients. So I'm observing him working with people, not being told things, but watching things play out. Um, I realized that club fitting was potentially way more advantageous to golfers than I ever imagined. I couldn't believe some of the things that I was seeing. So I ended up, spending, money I really didn't have to get what I like the what is the minimal stuff that I could buy to do this process that you guys just showed me. So I spent like $900. They showed me a great time. I was very inspired to go and try to do the right thing of what I had learned. Went back to my facility, and for the next, 30 days, I had members coming into practice, and I was showing them these things that I learned in Palm Springs. And what we started to notice is if you could explain things thoroughly and accurately, and it makes sense to the individual and they understand what they're getting into, it's not that hard to get them to decide that maybe they'll buy a new set of golf clubs. So what we started to notice is we were starting to make a little bit of money. We were selling sets of golf clubs that were working better than the individual's current set, a few times a day, and that kind of revealed like, okay, well, maybe this is the way. In the first year, I believe we became the number one dealer for KZG, and it's simply because no other company would open up an account with me. But one of the
Wow.
most sad things, and I blame humans on this, is I started to get a reputation for being a good club fitter, but I sold quote unquote no name products. And in my local community, which is basically what I was servicing, I started to get a reputation of a guy who sold knockoff brands, which really hurt deep down because I truly felt like I was doing the best that I could do. I was only getting better results when I sold clubs. But at the same time, from the outside looking in, they go, why is this guy biased towards this brand I've never heard of? So when I started to get wind of that, because people had either canceled an appointment and then I ended up understanding, well, why? And it's like, well, he wants to try Callaway and you're only fitting for this one brand. It made me kind of revise my situation. Like, well, I don't want to get known for that. So what I did was I leveraged the sales that I was making with KZG and started with Shrixon and said, hey, I've got a piece of pie here. I did $200,000 in sales, and I got no one else is even part of the market. So like, why don't you guys let me get an account? And I promise you'll get half of this pie because people know what you guys are, and I know what I'm doing. So I opened up a Shrixon account, and immediately in the next 6 months, I'm selling Shrixons a lot. And then I used that to get my Titleist account, and then I used the Titleist account to get to the Callaway account. So basically, it took me 5 years, but I finally got what I thought I needed. What I thought I needed. I spent a bunch of money buying what I thought I needed. And the day that I had everything was the day that I realized I was wrong. Because when you have
Wow.
1,000 shafts and you have 100 club heads, you got all these combinations. How do you know what shaft to grab first? How do you know what club head to grab first when you start the fitting process? Unless you ask the guy what he's interested in, but people don't know what they need. They only know what they want, and they're not always the same. People really want to play better golf, and they think that Titleist head's going to help them. But what if the ping helped them more? Should they buy the Titleist or should they get the ping? What I've noticed is if you can articulate it and prove it in court that they will do what's best for their game, but they're going to need some evidence to pull them away from the brand that they have no idea why they even associate with, but they do. So I would go to Ping's protocols. I would go to Callaway's protocols. I'd go to all these companies' fitting protocols, and you start to realize they have different belief systems. Why is Ping only making high bounce clubs when Mizuno's making primarily low bounce clubs? How do I make sense of all of this stuff is what I was always thinking. So there were days where I would fit a guy and I'm like, man, that fitting went beautiful. That guy's going to love his clubs. He was getting the tiger strike. And then the very next day, a guy with the same ability level, I just never was able to achieve the level of precision that the guy before did. And I never could figure out why. Why did I have success yesterday? And why am I struggling to get success today? And just that thought alone never set well with me. So when I started to think about it, I started to be like, well, the variables aren't being isolated. So when I grab that shaft that Ping offers, well, Callaway doesn't offer that shaft. And the shaft that I do have is a little bit longer. And Callaway won't let me go as flat as the Titleist. So all I could really do is kind of piece together like close to what I thought a guy needed, but I could never nail it down. So it took me a while to make sense of it all, but basically, long story short, is I realized not one company makes all three bounces, but bounce is one of the most important things when it gets to that vertical strike location on our club. One guy's going to hit one better, one guy's going to hit the other one worse. How do I find out? So I Frankensteined a process where I had a low bounce KZG head, a mid bounce Shrixon head, and a super high bounce Callaway head. Put the same shaft in them, made them the same lie angle, made them the same grip. And I used to have people come in and test that to quote unquote start the party. Are you a low bounce guy? Are you a mid bounce guy? Are you a high bounce guy? And then one day a guy
Well,
came
but
in and said, sure,
just 1 second. So
sure,
you're doing this process, mid, low, high bounce in studio or something like that, right? Am I
that is
correct?
correct. Mhm.
Now, how does that, and I don't want to go get ahead of myself here,
No
but the
problem.
question I'm going to have for you is, depending on the course conditions they're playing, they might benefit from a particular bounce. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure. And
But let me
yes,
let you get,
there is
let me
100% a
let you go on. I'm
possibility.
sorry.
Well, I do believe the future of golf is going to take this process that we've got, use it as a baseline so we can figure out the next step, which is what you just said. Should players be playing different bounces on different golf courses in different conditions? Well, in NASCAR, they never drive the same car twice. So it makes me think the answer is yes. But how do you gain the trust of the player? Let's take, for instance, Bryson DeChambeau. How much trust does he have to have in his team to have a set of golf clubs that he's never hit before show up in his locker and the team say, yeah, this is the fastest car for the track? You're going to have to build a really strong foundation and rapport to get him to trust this. Do I think it's going to happen? Yes. Is it going to happen tomorrow? No way. Because there's a lot of data that needs to be conducted before the player is going to take the trust fall and say, I know my pit crew's right about this. That's the tough part.
Right.
Um, but so far, what we've noticed is we're looking for a very particular strike location on the face. We want the bottom of the ball to always be touching the bottom groove. And that's
Okay.
not you or anyone to trust me at face value. It's look at Tiger Woods' wear patterns throughout history and tell me where he's striking it. And if you think you're hitting the ball in a better place than him, just, let me know.
Okay. So that being said, Tiger Woods, that's the Tiger strike, right?
That is
So
correct.
is the Tiger strike compared to the rest of the PGA Tour an outlier?
No, it's
Okay.
something all the best ball strikers seem to have in common.
Okay. Because there is some commercial there with him and
Mhm.
Scheffler standing there, and he's telling Scheffler, look, when I'm hitting the ball the best, I never take a divot. And Scheffler
Yes.
looks at him like, what the fuck are you talking about? he
Amen.
couldn't, he,
So So that video really resides with me, and I've been able to pair up
couldn't-
three to four things to really prove what I believe in. And there are other instructors proving it further than I am day to day because they're scientists and I'm not. But
yes.
Darren Clark has a video of saying the most insane thing he's ever seen in his whole golf career was Tiger warming up for the 1999 Open or whatever year it was. And the ground conditions were terrible. It was tight. It was wet. And he basically said Tiger hit every club in his bag and never took a divot. And he flushed every shot. And he said it was the most insane thing he's ever seen in his life. So that happened 8 years ago or more. Then you have the thing with Scotty Scheffler talking to Tiger, and Tiger says, hey, when I'm really flushing it, I notice I don't take a divot. It's not something I try to do. It's something that I've noticed. Then I looked at the strike location of where he hits the ball, and what we notice, and this is 100% true, when you get a Tiger strike, you don't take that much of a divot. The question is what's the definition of a divot? Can we define what a divot is? And Mo Norman has a video where he said a divot is something that you can pick up. You pick up a divot and put it back. It doesn't mean you didn't touch a blade of grass. You can trim the grass, but not take a divot. So we have to understand what is a divot really, and if it's something you can pick up and put back, that's not what Tiger was talking about. Now, when Tiger was working with Foley, he took massive divots.
Here and just took a full swing with the 8-iron. We talked about it a little bit. Still makes that move down and just takes a huge amount of turn.
But you have to ask Tiger, was that considered flush by your standards? Then you got to get into what does Tiger mean by the word flush? Well, I think flush is a shot that not everyone can hit. A high ball that wins U.S. Opens. That's how you win U.S. Opens. You hit the ball higher, land it softer, and there's only 10 guys in the field that actually have that. And what you notice is to hit the ball high with your long irons, you're not going to take a big old divot.
I
So
agree.
there's a lot of things that got to be put into context. But what we've noticed is the divots go away the lower we hit it on the face, and it pairs up to all these other stories.